Hey everybody, it's JJ over at Audio Workstations. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up a headphone mix in Pro Tools. Okay, so first of all, let's clarify what we're talking about and why you would need this. So what we're talking about is setting up a completely separate mix going to the headphones of your performer compared to what you want to hear out of the speakers or your headphones as the engineer. Now, in most scenarios, you don't need this because the mix that you're hearing is typically suitable enough for the mix for the performer to hear in the headphones. The only time this becomes really necessary is with recording drums, because drums naturally are going to be very audible to the drummer while they're playing. And a drummer's not going to need to hear the drums at full volume in the headphones because, again, they're going to be hearing so much of the acoustic drums while they're playing. They're going to need to prioritize hearing things like the click track or other instruments in the performance. So again, with tracking drums, right, you're going to want to hear the drums at full volume as the engineer, but the drummer's going to probably need to hear the drums at a very soft volume in the headphones, and the other instruments in the click track needs to be at full volume. So before we get into how you set this up in Pro Tools, there are some hardware requirements that are going to be needed in order to properly do this. The first hardware requirement you're going to need is an interface that has multiple line outputs. So unfortunately, if you just have a 2-channel out interface, you won't be able to do this, because you're going to need to be able to route the drummer's mix to a separate output in the interface. So you need to make sure that you at least have a 4-output interface. The second hardware requirement that you're going to need is going to be some type of monitoring station, usually, where you can have 2 different incoming sound sources and be able to route those 2 separate sources into different playback devices. For example, here we have our main left and right 1 and 2 output of Pro Tools coming into input number 1, and I'm playing this off our speakers here, as well as being able to send it to my engineer pair of headphones. But then we have input signal number 2, which we can specifically route to go to the drummer's headphones. Okay, assuming you have all of those capabilities with your hardware, as far as setting this up in Pro Tools. So we got 8 drum tracks here and a click track. Now again, the drummer's not going to want to hear these drums at full volume like I'm hearing them. They're going to want to hear mostly the click track. So the first thing we're going to want to do is set up a stereo aux input track in Pro Tools, and we'll call this drummer's headphones. And any track that we want to send to the drummer's headphones, we're going to use the send on that track and send it to this aux input track. And for this case, we're just going to guesstimate that the drummer's going to want to hear the click track at full volume, and then we're going to go about -30 on kick, snare, and the 2 overheads. That's usually enough for a drummer to hear in the headphones. They might not need to hear any drums in the headphones. The last step here is to go to the output of the drummer headphone aux input track, and we need to route this to be a different output on the audio interface. So you'll see here that the drummer headphones are outputting line 7 and 8 in our case, and every other track is just going out the main left and right. Some other cool things that you can do is we can add an EQ to the drummer's headphones, so maybe filter out some of the lows, boost up some of the low mids where headphones might be lacking in, and reduce some of the high mids where the headphones might be a little harsh in. We could also add a compressor or limiter to make sure that none of the dynamics get out of the control in the drummer's headphones. And something that can be very helpful is going into the view menu and selecting the send to be expanded. So this way you don't have to open up the send every time you want to make adjustments in the drummer's headphones. You'll have that displayed right there for you in the mix screen. Now I just want to note that you can set this up in any DAW in a similar way, as long as you can create that stereo aux input or stereo return and send your recorded tracks into that. So whichever way your preferred DAW can do that, you would set it up the same way. Well, I hope this video helped. If you have any questions about this topic, please feel free to drop them down in the comments. If you like this type of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to help support this channel here, please check the link in the description for our Patreon. We will see you next time.